Well, hey, hello. Leavers and believers. Welcome back to Leaving Hillsong. Or if it's your first time, welcome aboard joining this very special conversation. I've changed the name. Remember when Kylie Jenner changed her baby's name? Well, I didn't have the title ready last week, but as you'll find out, and warnings for the religious and sensitive people ahead, our guest today does not hold back. He didn't last week, and this week is no disappointment there. My name is Tanya, and Paul Castledine and I sat down for a couple of hours last week and had a rather an impromptu conversation, and I can't imagine what would have happened if it had been planned. The intro last week was really minimal. I've been fighting off a flu kind of unsuccessfully all week. So let me tell you a little bit more about Paul. He did graduate Bible college in 1987, and then he returned to university. He worked in state parliament for a while and then took off to the United States in 1992, and he lived and worked there for 6 years until 98, and then he returned to Sydney, and he started an entry-level IT job, like on the help desk, where he learned that exceptional patience, but I'm not even going to show you how patient I'm being. And now he's known through the Australian IT industry and finance industry and now government circles. And he's one of the most vocal and committed atheists we've come across in a long time. So yes, he certainly isn't backward in coming forward, so clutch your pearls, grab your snacks, and maybe get your pearls ready for clutching. I don't know how it works. Enjoy part 2 of a bad long weekend with Paul Castledine.
Right.
Right.
Back from intermission. So we had left you in the 80s, having come out to a homophobic, HIV terrified environment, and obviously, a lot of resistance there at church.
Yeah.
That's where we left off. So, got this feeling a leaving story is coming soon. One of the earliest things I remember you said to me when we first started talking some months ago, and you said, I said something like, "What do you think of Brian?" Something came up.
That's
So what do you think of Brian? And you said, I hope he wakes up screaming every morning.
I do. I hope the man wakes up screaming every morning.
And I've been a bit nervous to kind of find out what's behind that. Wow. Tell me.
You just need to look at the way Brian conducts himself, and not just in front of his church in those days, previously, but in the media, in court, in the Royal Commission, most recently in court, the way that he and Bobby would sit there. This man has no sense of doing anything wrong. And so when I say that I hope he wakes up screaming every day for the rest of his life, that's what I think, because what I'm trying to say is that he, and even the slightest inkling of the incredible suffering that he has caused, the loneliness, the betrayal of people's trust, the car wreck, the mince meat machine that he presided over and set up, that just puts humans in one end and you get the clones out the other. Whether you believe in God or not, or you can believe it's Jesus' message and all of that stuff, it doesn't really matter. The bottom line is the man took people into a machine that he built time and time again, we've heard about instances of control, instances of underhanded dealings, instances of lies and manipulation. Manipulation was the name of the game. I think he tried to bore people on a Sunday morning into submission. Yeah, I just, when I said that, it's because I want the man, just for, even if it's a tenth of what a normal human would feel, I want him to feel that sense of shame of what he's done, a sense of shame for the way he's treated people, and a sense of shame for the hubris, just the incredible hubrisness. Amazing. So yeah, I hope he wakes up screaming every morning. Just, that's too good for it. Wakes up screaming every morning for the rest of his life.
And you were quite like, so what? Why is that a big deal? I mean,
Yeah,
can you imagine if I said something like that? And it's certainly not crossed my mind. I'm not entirely sure that your wishes aren't coming true at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. But again,
Things are a bit ugly. So, excuse me. So if we could just back up a little here, because we've got PCD Ministries.
Oh, yeah.
You're preaching, you're leading worship.
I was preaching, leading worship. That's right.
And then suddenly, I'm sorry, now we hear it mincemeat machines and train wrecks. What happened?
One of the things that I've always recommended to Christians do is actually go and study their Bible. So what happened was I started, rather than listening to these waffles that you didn't get a lot of teaching at Hills Christian Life Center. You got a lot of Brian, or you got a lot of Pat, or you got a lot of Darko. Right? You got a lot of stories about Katuba Bible College or something, and this, that, or that. You didn't get a lot of teaching, even at the supposed teaching Sunday morning service.
Not a place for the intellectuals, the old
Exactly.
Life Center.
One of the things I recommend to Christians that are on their way out of the church or are starting to, realize not a lot of this makes sense. The best cure for this sort of, I think it's a delusion. I'm in Richard Dawkins' camp. The best cure for this delusion is to actually study the book that you say is so important. And once you're studying, you will realize just what. So I was at Bible college for a year studying, and I realized it was, apart from not being written by anybody that we can really readily identify, which is a bit of a worry, apart from not being written until after, well after the, the events that were supposed to take place, just in the Gospels, right? Apart from having no historical basis in fact or very little, apart from it being misogynistic, apart from it having 3 sets of the 10 Commandments, apart from it condoning slavery, homophobic, need I go on, right? And just nonsense. This book talks about unicorns, for goodness sake. I started to see through it all, and I realized, well, you know what, this whole idea of one person, raising from the dead, well, that's just a bit of a trunk, really. That's what you had to do if you wanted to be a god. Like, you go to hell for 3 days, the suffering the Christians talk about, Jesus going, putting off his divinity. It was like a bad long weekend for him. All right. In Friday night, long weekend starts, he goes to hell. But Monday night, he's back. Right? He's got the cards, the king in his hand to the card that Daddy tossed him. Right? He's got everything back that he had before the long weekend. Don't talk to me about Christ's suffering in hell. It was a bad long weekend at worst.
Well, this occurs to me recently, right? So, all right. So there's hanging out in the temple, 12, I know everything. When we're 30 years old, we don't want to cover those missing 18 years in between, and how come, maybe at school people brushed up against him, oh, my leprosy's gone, and no, it didn't happen. Okay.
None of that.
30, and he does this thing for 3 years, but everybody else has got to do it for their whole life. So we can all do a 3-year health, spirituality, wellness quest. Do you know what I mean? And be our best us. But, did he face not enough for his retirement when he was 67 and not qualifying for the pension? I mean, it's...
Come on.
Yeah.
So, and I started to look around, and of course I felt a bit that as to motivations to do something and to get to behave in a way that is going to somehow make amends or somehow make, we got to make up for what's happened to me. So I started to feel stupid. Right? Stupid for the things that I believe, stupid for the books that I bought, stupid for running around with my Barry Smith, whatever t-shirt on. And for those who don't remember, Barry Smith was a New Zealand preacher who would talk about the end times. Don't get a bank card because it's 666 written on it, things like that. I had to make up for all that because I felt stupid. I felt like I'd been a bit of a monkey out of. So I think that's where my atheism started. And so here we are 30 years later, I guess. And I have not taken my foot off the pedal there, in terms of my militant atheism, I think it would be described as. Don't know why, but I'm just expressing my point of view. But it's because of the incredible inconsistencies about the lies that are spread around, I believe. And I genuinely believe that the church, whether it's Hills or anything, the Christian church in general today and in history is not a source for good that everybody thinks it is. There's a tacit acceptance that the church is somehow special. And, sure, there might be some bad people in it, but at the end of the day, it actually does a lot of good. Well, I have a lot of trouble finding that good. I don't find any of that good in the hole that it leaves in our tax revenues, that for some reason, these people don't have to pay tax or rates, or, it doesn't make any sense to me at all. The injustices start there and they just build, in my opinion. And I don't apologize for having no time for it, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it makes you feel good. Generally speaking, knowing the truth is better than believing a lie. It's just, it follows naturally. We know this as humans. It's like being healthy is better than being ill. Yeah. And people aren't doing any harm. They're just sitting there believing it. Well, people are doing harm, by propping up the church, by, perpetuating this tax-free nonsense, by the judgments, the nonsensical judgments that of all people, these people decide to, level against people. And I just can't. That's what drives my atheism. And just not to mention how ridiculous the whole shebang is. And I'm not picking on the Christians. I'm picking on the whole gambit of them. It just strikes me as so evidently, plainly ridiculous. That's what motivates me. I guess it's low-hanging fruit in a sense, maybe.
Yeah, definitely as technology has expanded, it becomes more and more difficult to suspend your disbelief, even to be nice to people. And that's not, erasing the notion that people have of a spirituality or whatever. But we've got to raise some standards soon, don't we? Apart from they're Christian people.
Yeah, like being of good character.
Yeah, and we will be getting to that. It is still in 2023 considered in our courts of law to be appropriate for a pastor to be deemed of good character. And the magistrate recently said he is therefore unlikely to commit the kind of offence alleged. And it's just, so deeply ingrained in our society, which in our society there's supposed to be a separation of church and state here.
Yes.
And it's just not happening. So did you have any kind of announcement? Did you run screaming, exit stage left? What happens from PCD Ministries?
Yep, I just stopped going. I just didn't turn up one Sunday.
Okay.
Yeah. The previous fortnight, Brian had one of his words, from the Holy Spirit to give to me, which he didn't mind doing it, which of course they do to this day, right? They deliver in front of the entire congregation with a live microphone. And it's all about intimidating and getting people back into their lanes, submit, do what you need to do. Don't pop your head up. Don't. So it's all about.
And what were the words he had for you? Usually,
I just don't remember, but I remember that was very much the last straw for me. So the eyes locking. Of course, a man like him wasn't even vaguely intimidated by it, but I would let him know. That's right. I was the first person baptized in that baptismal pool out there.
That was fancy in the day. Wow.
Yeah,
Well,
remember when they had that in? That was quite a privilege. And I was the first person. And I
who
thought,
baptized you? Come on.
and Brian and Michael Smith, they got a photo of it, actually.
Wow. And you still backslid.
And I still backslid after a man of God of that.
Wow.
But yeah, so, I just stopped. I just thought, you know what, that's enough of this. And I didn't go back, and nothing, not a call, not anything. It's interesting, years and years later, my sister's son, my nephew, who'll remain nameless, turned up and was going to Hillsong College, enrolled in Hillsong College. But when he turned up at Hillsong, after he'd had his born again experience and all of that good stuff, and he got to talking to Brian once and mentioned that he was, my nephew. And Brian, immediately knew who I was. And yes, I remember your uncle very, very well, seduced by the bright lights of the city, the big city.
That lifestyle.
That lifestyle again.
You could have been Pat's friend. He's got a lot of gay friends. And
Karen,
yeah.
Gay. Just look at his Instagram. You can see them all coming out.
Mm.
In fact, I think Pat's going to have his own dedicated float next year in Mardi Gras.
Oh, they're always been an ally. Always. Really, really compassionate.
Exactly.
Human rights. And, well, I mean, you've kind of told us life since. Doesn't sound like
none of
drama.
None of the dire predictions, about, well, I'm not dead. I'm not HIV positive, and I'm thankful for that. We have some wonderful medicines nowadays, but I think at the end of the day, you're still better off being negative than being positive. So it's not the death sentence it used to be, thank goodness. But
and shout out to our listeners who are living with you.
Yes, exactly. Respect. Respect. I have a lot of fun with my atheism. I also, despite being motivated by something quite personal to me and something I really truly believe quite deeply, that the church is not a force for good, and the religious belief is something that needs to be challenged. Life's been really good. Life has been really good. But it's interesting, through, leaving Hillsong and, to a lesser degree, the folks over it, I was a teenage fundamentalist. It's interesting engaging with folks that are recovering from their time in these churches. Religious trauma, I think, is something that I've been privileged not to have suffered from.
Okay.
Like everyone, and I think any atheist who tells you that isn't true is not necessarily telling you the truth. Like anyone, when you are so convinced of the fire's right, there is a time that there's a shadow cast down your life long after you leave the church, and regardless of what your position is up here on all sorts of things, where there is a fear of hell that lives in the back of your head to a degree, in the back of your heart to a greater or lesser degree. And it took me years to truly shake myself free of that. And I and I don't remember when it happened, but I do recall one morning, one day just being aware that it had gone, that I couldn't tell you when. But I understand that.
Interesting. Okay.
From that perspective, there's always a little voice in the back saying, well, what if?
What if?
What if, right? And
Pascal's wager.
That's fear, right? Fear, it's a primal fear. And a lot of effort is invested in that message. Yeah. At the end of the day, Jesus said, and there's something on my blog about this, I think it's one of the funnier things I put up there is, but couldn't be more accurate. Jesus Christ was history's greatest extortionist. There's a picture of Jesus knocking on the door saying, let me in. What do you want? People are saying, what do you want? I'm here. Please let me in. He goes, well, should we let you in? He goes, I'm here to save you. Save us from what? And Jesus said, I'm going to save you from the things I'm going to do to you if you don't let me in. No, that's just extortion.
Yes.
It's extortion, right? So it's all about fear. It's not about love. It's not about hope or healing or compassion or blah, 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 blah. It's fear. It's all about fear. So people that are really quite traumatized. That helped me understand people that are really quite traumatized because they've had trouble shaking that fear. Or at the base of it, 100 other reasons, some of the abuse and suffering that's gone on. But it all boils down to, the betrayal of trust. And when it comes to that particular organization, like many others, there's a deliberate it has to have been a deliberate betrayal of trust. I don't even believe for a minute any of this. Bobby, I don't believe she's being genuine. I don't believe she wonders why she genuinely believes she's being persecuted. They would know full well while they're
Yeah.
persecuted.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They may well tarnish over that and buried in denial and all sorts of things. And who knows? But at the heart of it, it's that knowledge that they're essentially betraying everybody's trust. And let's suppose for a minute that they actually believe this gospel that they say that they do. And you can only judge people, by what they believe, because that all occurs on the inside. You can only judge them by what they do, right? Yeah. And how could they believe what they say they believe if they did what they did anyway? Even if they believe that, let's suppose that for a minute, just the fear of where is it? It's in oh God, I can't believe it. Now my mind's gone blank. It's the one. It's one of the exhortations in Isaiah is about woe to the false shepherds of the flock. Even if they do believe that, they should be terrified. What God's going to do to them.
Yeah. So and this is the thing. Like over the 40 years, how many times did people go to them and say, I put everything into the prosperity theology. I followed what you said to the letter, and the bank's taken the house away.
And now I don't.
What do we do?
Yep. I was someone on your podcast just recently who went through that period of their life where they would have been putting that money away to assist with a deposit. And of course now.
Yep.
And they're not going to care.
Yep.
It's like, yeah. Another thing I find interesting is when I look at the leadership of the church nowadays. So Phil Dooley was a mate of mine at Powerhouse Youth, and then Lucinda Wiley and all that crowd, Grant Thompson, all that crowd. The Van Heels went. I wonder how that party went last Saturday, Tanya.
Why? I just think, how can they throw a reunion party for Hills Christian Life Centre and leave people like us out on some other hill just to, while the 99 of them at $50 a head? What's that? Thank you very much.
It was $50. That's what I want to know.
Well, Kingdom Builders bills are getting harder and harder to pay. So there was a reunion party recently for the crowd of 1983 on, and we were a little bit conspicuous in our absence.
Absolutely, would have been, yeah. We would.
I'd like to think there's a lot of us out there. There's a lot of siblings, shall we say, of well-known names that don't attend, and the black sheep of the black sheep kind of people. I'm not holding any grudges or anything. It's not important. Doesn't matter to me at all, right? It would have been nice to be pretenders or something. I don't know.
Might have been. I wonder if we got talked about.
I hope we were the terrifying elephant in the room, the rabid elephant. Can elephants get rabies?
Taking grass across the road, or
there would have been a lot of elephants in that room. Like I said, there's a lot of people who I heard since disappeared or didn't go anymore, or something went wrong with him. Well, that's what you get.
This is the thing, and this just occurs to me talking to you now. That reunion. Look, let's put aside the elephants in the room. Let's put aside, it would have been like walking on eggshells, because how at Hillsong you can, I don't understand why people still do it. But there must be you've got to be careful what you talk about, right? They talk about the weather, but we talk about the people that were still there, like Lucinda and Phil and Grant and the likes, right? There's a good number of them, right? Why are they still there? Why is that? You think about for every one that's there, the 20 or God knows how many people that were just part of the rotating door, or just in the rotating door. They came in, they spat out at various speeds.
Is that the numbers you'd think it was? Yeah.
Oh, easily over the course of it.
Well, he was your mate. Why don't you tell us?
Sorry?
He was your friend, Phil Dooley. He was one of your mates, you said.
Oh, one thing was one of my mates. There was a crowd of us. There was 4 or 5 of us that hung around all together. And, Yeah, Phil was definitely a part of that.
So
Brother Simon, and his father's a remarkable man, had a lot of time for me. And yeah, I passed away sadly, quite tragically a couple of years ago. But
the
yeah,
brother was a lawyer. The
why
brother's
are people still there when so many have realized, seen the institution for what it is and left? It's interesting. It's interesting.
third chair.
I'm thinking about the judgment of the people that are there, unless, of course, they know exactly what's going on and they're there for, they're there for the cake. I don't know.
There was cake. Look, you make it sound very blatant that they've watched. These guys have been there as long as you. What's that? Pushing 40 years. Don't tell me they haven't seen the extremes of how badly this goes wrong.
How badly it goes wrong. And then when they get caught, how badly the institution reacts to it. And I just don't understand why are they still there? If they're not there for themselves.
Well,
Single person, not a single blind person has been healed. Not a single, God hates amputees, let's face it. Not a single amputee has been.
yeah.
No, they have not seen a single damn thing to confirm this rubbish that they've heard every Sunday and every Saturday. Not a single damn thing. And yet they're still there.
And it's that particular demographic where we were growing up, which was going through a population boom, but a housing boom. Sydney's a very unplanned city. So it was just, wherever people could afford, they'd build. And Hills Christian Life Centre in particular had that intersection of, up and hardworking or families with the quarter-acre block or
Absolutely.
who might have hoped for a little bit more. And if that meant volunteering and tithing and being loyal.
It was very much.
They happened on a beautiful time in history and a beautiful demographic for financial exploitation. Tell me what you think. We haven't discussed this.
You're right. The thing is, and not everybody, they say everybody was welcome at Hillsong. I didn't find that to be the case. If you came from and I heard it just recently again on your podcast a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month, where somebody was coming across from Penrith or something, and they were like, no, that makes feel very awkward about what they were wearing. It was something to do with women's conference, maybe. I don't know. But it's interesting, have some coin about you. You expect you to dress a certain way and behave a certain way. It's interesting.
To the point where someone wrote to me some years ago, I'll have to dig it out. I wonder if they're listening. And to conduct an experiment for her own peace of mind, she constructed 2 email accounts and wrote to them and said, I'm an older woman, whatever, and I'm very ill and I'm going to die. And I was wondering what support you could offer me and, friendship and stuff. And she got nothing. So from the second account, she wrote and said, I'm older and I'm ill and I will die soon. And I've got a huge estate and I just don't know what to do with it.
Oh,
she got a response straight away. It's interesting because you think of it, you're a bit more detached and I guess more, I get a little bit more. How do they sleep at night?
How do they sleep?
How do you sleep at night? Laying hands on someone, knowing, like you said, that nobody's got.
Yeah.
And then you get up and do it again the next day a couple of times.
Yeah. And the whole
Take
thing,
that to Africa.
accepting this salary and then accepting all of the, the honorariums of being invited to go and speak somewhere. And then just what would come to learn, that the books, examining the books. Oh my God. You can't even, Bobby wouldn't even pay for a lip balm. Come on. Just this rapacious taking everything they could get their hands on. It's like, oh my goodness,
And coming back for more. Yeah. When you look at those whistleblower documents that were released under parliamentary privilege in
Yes.
March?
Yes.
April? it's just one long first-class lifestyle. So you
It is.
wake up in your, 5-star hotel, go down to the hotel for breakfast, get in your limo or whatever to get to your first-class flight. It's
Driven by the college volunteers, yes.
yeah, who are fighting over each other to get there. Brian can't have lunch for less than $600. It seems it's just,
Oh,
and it's funny because when you read about people's outrage towards CEOs earning so much more than, the average employee, that's a corporation. This is, people standing up and saying, I have gay friends. I don't, these are people standing up saying, give us 10% and you will get it back. You have, God promises you.
And what does it,
in the word.
Just like I said, they have what sort of people are they? What sort of people are they? When you sit down and wrote it all out, right? That after everything they've done, and then we know, probably know, let's say we know a tenth, but even if we know all of it, right? Which we don't. Even after everything they've done, to turn around and not understand, or pretend like they don't understand or they're being hard done by, it's all an attack of the enemy.
Yeah.
It's more of this perverse Christian doctrine and talks about unconditional forgiveness, which is not healthy, right? One of the things, an important step for people who are on their way to recovery from anything, realize, is to acknowledge that you've been hurt, acknowledge that you've been wrong. And rather than saying, oh no, you just forgive and forget everything, cast it all the way, it's the east is from the west, and blah, blah, blah. Perversity. It's just perversity. And yet they expect that, well, I'm covered by the blood of Jesus. And,
Yeah, it's interesting because some of it, so clearly borders on delusional and in any other circumstance would require a psychiatric hold. God is speaking to me right now and he's telling me that you need to have a cheese sandwich tomorrow or go start up in India, whatever.
Lord, and send me your money. That's what Jesus wants you to do. It's like.
And yet they get tax cuts and a pat on the back. It's bizarre.
Don't get me started about the tax cuts. Why? It makes no sense at all. None.
Well, I don't know that we can speak for every faith-based charity in Australia, but certainly these people, particularly after these documents were released, offer no contribution to society at all, apart from running their own business.
Exactly. They're running their own business. And you may remember about 9 years ago that Darlene was first investigated by, the social welfare,
City Care?
Something like that. And taking all of the money that people would get on a fortnight and giving them a little bit.
Mercy Ministries.
Mercy Ministries, thank you very much.
Mark and Darlene Chet brought the idea of Mercy Ministries, I believe, to Brian and to Australia. I believe they somehow had met Nancy Alcorn, who runs Mercy Ministries. Well, not everyone knows this. Horrible story. And Mercy Ministries, which has now rebranded as Mercy Multiplied because it continues on, started as a rehab or a place for
rehab. It was rehab.
Well, young women in trouble. So it was for pregnant people who were not married to a good Christian man. And, that's making me think a lot of questions now because Nancy has an adoption agency.
Yes.
So she always wanted those yummy, yummy babies, but it then expanded to claim to treat eating disorders, mental health issues, a range of things. And when it did open in Australia, I'm in the links with your song, Gloria Jean's Coffee, which was being run by Brian's mate, Narby, who's still around today.
You don't get to hear him mentioned too much nowadays.
He's Teflon under the radar.
Laying low.
One of Brian's most favorite kind of, what are those people called? Congregants members, because he's a big giver. But he was running this Gloria Jeans and they used to exploit the girls as well. the residents at Mercy Ministries would have to go to Gloria Jean's and be seen by the public, like some kind of scarlet letter on them. It was shut down in Australia because the participants were offered professional interventions, health interventions, doctors,
Absolutely.
psychologists, and they were left with Bible college students and exorcism, the most horrific stuff. So it was shut down here, and Darlene wore the brunt of that. I mean, they were compensated, I think, $1,000 each. Not sure if that came out of her pocket.
Good
It
Lord.
seems to be where the separation of Darlene and state comes from,
The separate the talent and stuff. Very true. I like that.
around there. But yeah, sorry, tell me what I just need to give people in. We've got a lot of people all around the place. We've got even a bit of background. Yes. Tell me.
Yes.
You said Darlene been investigated by the welfare people.
Like, I mean, so none of this should have been news to people. Like, the red flags are there. Where, like, what investigation was done after that? And into the parent organisation. You know, it's like,
They distanced themselves. Hillsong were like, you know what? That really didn't have anything to do with that.
yes. Yeah. Anyway, but the whole thing is just obviously a scam. Obviously a scam. It's just amazing.
Like,
The manipulation, the music, you know, even way back when we were there, before they had computer screens and fog machines and disco balls, whatever it is they have or don't have, you know, I don't know. But just so transparent, you know, really so transparent. Anyway, so.
oh,
Yes.
you feel bad?
No, not at all. I feel bad for the people that are stuck there. And I feel especially, I'm running out of sympathy really quickly for those that choose to remain. It's one thing to be a victim of all of that, of manipulation and being led, the human propensity to trust, right? It's one thing to be a victim of all of that, but it's another thing to be willfully ignorant as if nothing has happened. Like our friends gathered at the, the short end of the shallow end of the line waiting for their sausage snagged out of the Van Heels the other night. I am certain that those people are, there's a lot of willful ignorance going on, and I don't have a lot of time for willful ignorance. It's something to go to bar it.
I did hear that at the reunion party of all the old people, like you and me aren't old, but everybody there was old. They looked so old. I understand that you weren't allowed to talk about controversial Hillsong topics or Brian and just make nice reunion conversation.
Banned, absolutely banned. Yes, exactly.
So, great.
Absolutely. Well, they'd be used to not talking about it, I imagine, which is exactly how the whole situation came to persist, because they didn't talk about it, right? So I could see nothing strange. What about this in the glass? Like, what do you serve in the glass at a Powerhouse Youth Senate Year reunion? It's, I don't know, fruit, I don't know. Do McDonald's still yell out?
Well, I was just going to say.
The great big orange juice things,
Everybody just used to go to McDonald's afterwards, so no one knows how to enter.
Just stumble it.
Wonder what we can do with that theme. All right, Mr. PCD.
Thank you very much.
What else? What else is there to say? Is there anything else you want to throw out there?
I'm not sure there's much else to say.
You said a lot. I appreciate it.
Okay, all right. Yeah,
it's been wonderful. I'm not saying stop it. I mean, like, it's been heaps.
Yeah,
great.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us here.
And thank you for not throwing me off because of my 7-year-old backdrop here.
No, it's super cute, and I hope you sleep really well in your big car bed.
I'm just going to go and put my Batman jammies on now. Thanks, Tanya.
Yeah.
Bye.
And there you have it. If that little last part didn't make sense, grab the clip on socials. The background Paul was using was, outdated. Little space odyssey thing going, I don't know, some universe background that it looks like a 7-year-old would choose. Thank you for joining us in that rather interesting and deep dive into the 80s. I hope you found it as enlightening as I certainly did. We've got lots and lots to look forward to on Leaving Hillsong. Everything I've alluded to, all various pods and content are coming up. It's just a case of time and resources. Speaking of which, thank you so much to my supporters, the patrons in particular. You make this Leaving Hillsong world go round. Feel free to join them. Sign up to Patreon, PayPal, Leaving Hillsong, and let's get this message out there. Don't forget to tune into Reading Hillsong, another podcast we run on the side where we read the holy texts of the Houstons. Listen out and join up if you want to read with us. Create our very special historical archive. Please keep those likes and subscribes and shares and questions and stories and messages coming in. Can take me a little while sometimes to get back to you, but I will. Thank you for all your love and support. It's time for the traditional post-pod nap now. Make sure you take one of those. I always do. And, example of how to be kind to yourself. Keep being kind to you, the people around you. Keep leaving Hillsong. And we'll talk soon. Bye.